What's your least favorite thing about coaching?
I think I wouldn't say it's like my least favorite, but I would say a big trial that I think every coach goes through, and when you work specifically with kids, is it's gonna be parents. Because at the end of the day, some parents might ask you to coach the way they parent, and I won't do that. I'm not going to coach the way you parent.
That's a good perspective.
And there are some parents where my coaching and parenting, philosophy mixes well, and there's some parents that are very, they might be, and I've had parents on multiple, sides of the spectrum where I have a parent that's like, you need to scream at her, make her cry, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, we need to have a totally different conversation. Like, if that's what you think I need to do to get her to do what you want her to do, I'm not going to yell at her. Yeah. And I've literally had a conversation with a mom. She's like, you need to yell at her or something. I was like, I'm not going to do that to her. First of all, she's 7. Like, yeah, that's a totally different conversation. And then I have parents who are teaching their kids that nothing's their fault. So then there's that spectrum too, where it's like, no, we're going to learn how to be responsible for our actions and things like that. So I think that's probably my least favorite thing of coaching is and this is why I'm really big on communication and building relationships with my parents, is because we're all very different people just in general, and I can relate to them mother to mother, and that's something that I've never been able to do before, and it's something that unless you have a kid, and especially as a mom, and dads are the same way, it's just different because it's male and female, but like for, women with our kids, like that mama bear saying is a thing for a reason. Mm-hmm. Your instinct and your job is to protect your kids, and it takes a lot of self-awareness and self-control to recognize when someone's getting onto your kid, especially when it's another adult. You've got to really be able to check yourself and be like, do I need to intervene? Do I not need to intervene? Is this because it's good for the kids to be held accountable by other people than just their parents? And that's something that I relate with my parents well, is like, I know how you feel. Like, I get it. That's your baby. Do you trust me? And that's the ultimate question. If you trust me, then let me do this. She's going to be upset with me. She's going to be mad at me because I'm asking her, hey, it's time to push back, tuck to the high beam. You're ready. Well, she doesn't want to do it. Well, this is my job. I have to coach her through it. I have to push her. I'm not here to coddle her. I'm not bubble wrap. This is what you're paying me for. Yeah. But there's, again, a fine line to do that. But she's not always going to be happy with me, just like she's not always going to be happy with you. You're going to take her phone away. You're going to tell her she can't do this, all for what? To protect her, to make her a better human. Right. That's exactly what I want to do first and foremost. Is my job is to help. And that's something I think a lot of coaches forget about too, is, we're helping raise these kids. Like these it's a huge privilege for a parent to hand their kid over to another adult and a coach, especially in this sport where so much abuse has been so rampant, to trust them. Like, that's a heavy burden. And I take that responsibility not very lightly. So for me, I'm like, ultimately, I'm helping raise you. Your parents are your parents, and they'll always have the say. But they're trusting me to keep you accountable for your actions. If you lie to me, we've had situations where, they're going to lie. They're kids. I've had that instance, and I called the mom, and she handled it with me, and, all that stuff. So, like, we're in charge of helping raise them first and foremost, in my opinion, as humans. And if I do a good job with that, and me and the parents are working well, that gymnast is going to come easily, because the athlete is going to be good because the human is good. So that's, kind of where I stand on that. And that's why I have that open line of communication. I try to relate to the parents. I'm like, I'm not fighting against you. We need to work together. We are a team, and we both love your child. What is the best thing for her? Mm-hmm. So that helps a lot. And it helps a lot with the parents that, well, she's just upset, or she like, okay, well, we've got to teach her eventually that some things are her fault. You've got to let her take responsibility, and we have those good conversations, but that doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from trust and, me earning their respect, and that communication and stuff like that. So long answer is,
you got to cultivate it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, I think, about being a coach, is you have to deal with the parents. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but the parents are going to be there, hopefully,
So let's peel that back a little bit. I agree with you. The one of the biggest grievances as a coach will be the parents, but I don't think that's gymnastics specific. I think that happens in all children activities.
Like gymnastics specifically?
No. my question wasn't gymnastics specific. It just so happens that you gave an answer that's not gymnastics specific. Like dance moms are probably just as bad.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Or like cheer moms are probably just as bad. Or you know, baseball dads, or like, you know, like pick a sport where children are involved and parents have to watch their kid figure out how to figure out accountability and responsibility. And then there's always going to be a giant chasm of like, what's my role here as a parent? And I think I think first and foremost, as a sport, we do a bad job of delineating those roles specifically. Like, I think we do a bad job of saying, this is your role as a parent, at least in this building, right? And this is my role as a coach, and we have to make sure that we don't cross each other's lines. Because if we do, then who gets hurt is the kid, not us. I'm an adult. I'm gonna make my money anyway. You've got a job. You've got a living to make, right? Like, the athlete is the one with the dream and the one with the passion and the grit to be here, right? So we've got to keep out our love for this for the athlete as the biggest priority. There is a I'm trying to figure out like specifically how to put it together, because I don't want it to come off like I'm anti-parent.
Right. No.
You know what I mean?
I'm not at all.
Yeah. Like
obviously.
I don't want it to come. I don't want to come off like, oh my God, the parents are the worst part about sports in general. I've had some very bad interactions with parents that think they know it all. Yeah. And in this day and age where you can go online and pretty much find anything, you know, Facebook groups and Instagram groups and, like, you know what I mean? Like, a parent can really go and get any opinion period about the sport that they might see fit, without the nuances, without the context, right? I've had parents come up to me with like, well, I heard that this is what you have to do, or I emailed this person, and you know, she's the judge over here, and so it just like there's a lot of muddying of the territory, I guess. So it is very, very, very difficult to deal with that. I think I share your sentiment. I'm not sure that I would put it as my least favorite thing about the sport, but it's definitely high up there. However, I think that when I was more of a worker ant, whenever I was more of just a coach that had to do a lot of like the labor, and I had to just like show up and coach, and I didn't have to bear a lot of the responsibilities of the back end of a program, I think it was worse. I think parents would come to me more. I think parents would complain to me more. Obviously because they trust me, or, you know. Yeah. But I think now that I have a little bit more power in my program, authority, and control over what happens on the day-to-day, I think either one, I'm solving for them in real time, like I'm solving for the concerns of the parents in real time, and I'm just getting less of that, or they don't want to come to me because they're afraid of the answer. Yeah. You know, parents might rather say like, oh, she could have done this. She could have scored this bet, you know, this, if she had just done this. And I have been saying like this.
And I think that was my point with the communication. Yeah. And that's what I want. Like, that's why I was saying I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. It's the most difficult part of my job. And got it. I don't like difficult things. Nobody likes difficult things. So for me, what's going to be the most difficult part of my job is it's going to be working with the parents. Because like I said, there's that parental instinct that comes in. But it's not my least favorite. Absolutely not. Like, if we want to be specific what my least favorite is, it has nothing to do with the parents. But I would say parents are the most challenging part of coaching, because you have to have a relationship with them, and that takes work. Yeah. And that's work I'm willing to do, and it's work that I love to do. I love building relationships. I love talking to people, and I tell my parents all the time, because I get stories from a lot of parents from all over the country and even all over the world, of just stories about how, you know, hurtful some parents can be to even other people's kids and things like that. I've seen it happen. Yeah, I tell parents all the time, and I tell my parents this all the time. So if my parents are listening, they already know. I'm like, I have great parents. They're wonderful. They really, like 99.99% of my parents are great, but that's because we have both put in the work.
Yeah.
We've both put in communication and trust with each other, where if there is a situation that arises, I'm getting a text or I'm getting an email, we're getting things figured out, and it really is such a family. So I think that's like where I was saying the communication, that's why it's so important, because you can figure anything out before it becomes such a huge deal. And I don't want my parents to ever feel like they can't ask me something, because they ask me anything and everything. And I've been like, hey, you guys can't text me during a meet anymore. Okay, we gotta wait.
Or at midnight.
Like in the middle. Yeah, that too. Like, send me an email.
Yeah.
But they'll text me like, why is this happening? But and I love that they feel comfortable, because that to me proves that I've done a good enough job for them to not be intimidated by my title, by the fact that they, in their eyes, are like, she has full control over my kid's future. And that's how.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. That's how they may feel, and I don't want them to feel like I would ever use that, against them. So to me, I'm like, we've both done a good job of, they've had to get the guts to come talk to me. I've had to make sure to remind them, we are on the same level. I'm not above you. I'm not below you. If anything, I work for you, you pay me, I'm here for your kid, like all of those things. So I think that's where communication comes in to really play. But are parents my least favorite part about the sport? No. Are they the most challenging part? Yes. But challenging doesn't make it negative.
Yeah. So
I want to make that clear.
I don't know, for sure. Because they hate parents. Because they will come. No, they will come at you.
Yeah.
I just have to make, trying to give you a lifeline there. One thing that's really worked, I'll stay on the parent front for a little bit. Like, one thing that's really worked for me is destigmatizing a lot of the bad situations that parents have in their mind about their situation, their gymnast situation. I think a lot of people, coaches included, I've been part of this group also, where we will convince ourselves of a reality that isn't actually the reality of what's going on. And I think that goes back to a question. I'll reference back, but it's a question that I'm going to ask you in a little bit. Some parents have this thought, maybe because of the culture that the gym has, or things other parents have said. I don't know. It could be a multitude of things. But a good example would be like, my kid has to move on to the next level.
Yeah.
And in their mind, they'll say things to themselves like, well, they have to. They have to. And I've heard everything from, they have to move on, or we're not going to accept any, we don't want to repeat, or their friends are going. Like, it's been a multitude of things. Like we just won't accept not moving forward, and this and that. And a lot of those that terminology, aside from it as a coach making me kind of instinctively say like, well, that's kind of not up to you, right? But I think it speaks to a different part of the brain, really. I think it speaks to like a fear and
it's a protective mechanism,
and for sure, and more importantly, it's like they want to be seen like they want to be seen as successful.
Yeah, maybe.
And they'll for some reason think that a repetition of level, for example, is gonna make them feel inferior, or it's not going to be as beneficial.
Yeah.
Or they're wasting time.
Yeah.
Or, so it's a lot of fear based there. So for me, that